so much. Welcome back to More Up North. I'm Shannyn Moore, and I'm very happy that I have such a fun panel this week and that they were all able to come out in the snow and the sleet and the last-minuteness of Shannyn Moore. Bob Shavelson, who's kind of like the boss of me on the board of Cook Inlet Keeper, is up from Homer. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I'm so glad you're here. And Elstun Lauesen, how can I put this? Is a contributing author for Going Rouge. Not to be confused with Going Rogue. It's something completely different. A book that I wrote for, Elstun wrote for, as well as Jeannie Devon, the Muckraker of the Year, who just won the award from Bob Shavelson. Well, this week she'll be
so
a big
it's all
party.
Interconnected.
It is. We're all sort of, it's Alaska.
Synchronicity.
And Eric Croft, an Alaskan attorney, yes, a former mayoral and gubernatorial candidate, and a former 5-time elected representative to the Alaska House of Representatives from 96 to 2006, and someone I've known for 20 plus years and been to a Springsteen concert. So basically, we're married. all in the best, most platonic ways, who also named his daughter Shannyn.
But it was a coincidence, and we spelled it wrong.
You did, indeed.
We're doing a TV show in a bar. How cool is that?
I didn't even have a TV growing up, and now we're doing it. It's so much fun, isn't it? It's like radio with pictures. I know. So I'm so glad you guys are all here. Last week, I was on the way to the show, and there had just been an announcement that came out from Sean Parnell, the current governor, the new SP 2.0, that said this. And I want to get your views because we've all lived in Alaska. You're a lifelong Alaskan. Yep. You're a lifelong Alaskan. You're a transplant, but we take you anyway because you work. You're making us better. This is what Sean Parnell said. He said, clearly the federal government is taking away our freedoms and our opportunities for a strong, growing economy. This is the federal government. They're taking away our opportunities. We're fighting them off every day that I'm governor. It's been a week since this came out. I haven't seen any militia lining up of Alaskans in, like, I don't know, beaver skins ready to take on the federal government, or 18,000 people losing their jobs that are federal employees, or the military bases closing down, or whatever else. I mean, what, ports, airports, whatever it is, planes, trains, and automobiles. I haven't seen any of this. This is sort of a new thing for Alaska, isn't it?
The part of one of the Monty Python movies where they're like, what have the Romans ever done for us? You know, right. And he's like, we want them kicked out, and well, not the ones with roads and not public safety, and finally have this long list of kick everyone out except all the good ones that we like that are doing stuff. Yeah, it's like you and I were talking about as though we're a teenager that's sort of rebelling against this parent but can't figure out what we're doing. It's almost worse, like we're 45 and back living with our parents, you know, and still won't do the dishes or whatever. We whining about taking out the trash. We have this real ambivalent relationship to the federal government. It's very American, kind of. It's sort of how we started, but it's still really weird to be doing 200 years later.
It's part of the myth of the frontier.
Right.
And
the myth of the frontier.
We're supposed to be the edge of the frontier to America in the establishment of American history. Here we are. And the irony is, of course, that all of the non-indigenous history of Alaska, we have been very dependent. We have been, in essence, a colony.
Or a concubine.
And if you really believe that philosophy, then you're going to reverse a situation in which Alaskans receive 6 times the amount of funds that they pay out in terms of taxes. We're the most untaxed people in the richest state in the wealthiest nation on earth.
We don't want the money to go away, just the oppression, right? Just the...
Right, so it's basically like you were saying, you're 45, you move back in with your mom, and you're like, Mom, that's not how I like my underwear folded, and I would like breakfast at 9:30 instead of 7:30. I mean, and could I please have the internet connection, and can I have, could you make sure my car's gassed up, Dad? I mean, it's like all these demands, and no It's weird, and this sort of new crop of teabaggers that's out now. This sort
Great
of
name for them, huh?
Yeah, isn't that?
Should have looked
They
that one up
picked it.
before they. I
They
know.
picked their name. I did not pick it. I would have come up with something more subtle. But you know, and Alaskans to come out who have voted in Republicans year after year because of the pork and because they were really able to land it. I mean, if you remember during the campaign where Lisa Murkowski was running and Ted Stevens came in when it looked like she was going to lose and he was like, "This is my girl and I'm not going to get the money for you if you don't vote for her."
It was subtle, but we
And
got
it
the point.
But
yeah.
I mean, that was basically, and then those same people that were like, "Oh, Uncle Ted, I'm going to vote for her." Those people are like now like, "I'm not paying my taxes." Alaska, what is it, Bob? Because you live in Homer now.
I think, and you know, you go back to Barry Goldwater and you look at how they've successfully framed government as bad. And from that frame, you can connect so many pieces, and in part, you can distract people and explain away your failed policies. And actually, I think when I first heard that, I thought this is a platform for secession, that maybe we're actually going to cleave off and actually pull up our bootstraps and do it ourselves.
Do you think we could?
Absolutely not, but apparently the governor does.
Isn't that weird? He's really, I mean, he's appointed a teabagger. There's that word again. Google it. He's put this woman, Tammy Wilson, in Fairbanks into a seat for District 11, who's just like guano crazy. She's like Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin's love crazy. And there she is. Now she's going to Juneau. She was defeated in the Fairbanks mayoral election in a Republican town like Fairbanks. She was defeated because she's crazy, and Sean Parnell's like, "Oh, she'll
She got
do."
close. I mean, how she got so close to Luke up there, I don't understand. Luke was great and been on the assembly and done everything right. And yeah,
Because it's cold,
It's the
Eric.
churches, it's the churches. I'm from Fairbanks, I can tell you. There was a time.
That sounds like a disclaimer. I'm from Fairbanks.
There was a time in the golden days of Fairbanks, the bars outnumbered
you're
the
not
churches.
that old.
Let me tell you,
Golden
boy.
days, okay.
And
When I was a boy.
but now the churches outnumber the bars, and the town has gone downhill.
Is there something to that? Is there a scale in Alaska? Because when
happened in Homer.
when the
It happened in
Yasher
Homer.
Club burned down in Homer, it was like, "Oh crap, here we're
Shannyn,
going to
all I
Jesus
can
now."
say is this is being broadcast not from a church.
Good point.
Anyway,
It's sort of the bar rebellion. You're taking back the state
One bar at a
one
time.
bar at a time. Brilliant.
right. Come on, give me a high five.
There is
I
a
never-
worship, though.
Yeah, you know, there is an altar over there, and there's some bright, shiny lights, and I hear people say, "Oh, Jesus, help me," but usually it's when they've fallen down.
But what is really frightening in terms of the Tammy model for Alaskan politics is she came to Alaska in 2002. Now, when I was a kid, if you hadn't lived in Alaska at least 25 years, you were considered
You
a
just weren't listened to.
newcomer.
None of your opinions were
you
worth
hadn't-
anything. Yeah.
You hadn't paid your dues.
Right.
But she arrives in 2002, joins the right church, and before we know it, voila, you've got a state representative.
And I mean, we have a distrust of the government too. It's sort of, I worry about when government is trying to do what big corporations want it to do, you know, and so that there's sort of enough fear to go around. But what I think is new in the debate is the absolute lack of facts, you know, or almost even beyond that, almost a disregard of facts, as though when Sarah was corrected on the death panels, there was no apology, right? There was no correction. There was no, "I'm sorry, I got," you know, I mean, she could have said, I got carried away, I really don't like this bill and here's why, but you're right, there's none of this. But that doesn't even have to happen anymore. You don't even have to say, I mischaracterized, but still. You just go on.
Right, and this sort of faith-based policy, though, is what we've seen in environmental policies. I mean, this week she came out and said that that Barack Obama should boycott Copenhagen because it's snake oil sales to believe in climate change, and it's time for him to put science in its rightful place. And I'm like, where's that? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus? Numbers had a little bit. Deuteronomy, not so much science. But, you know, I'm seriously, this sort of, and we're looking at Sean Parnell doing the same thing this week with the belugas. You know, now there's a habitat figured out for Cook Inlet, that these are endangered.
We knew they're endangered. Now,
Bob Shamson.
Bob knows more about it.
Captain Cook Inlet.
do?
You do keep the Cook Inlet
I do.
by title.
But I used to be a
And
politician, so I could just go on about it, or you could hear the facts, whichever you'd like.
Let's try the facts.
Yeah, all
I'm
right.
checking